Why writing notes is a waste of time, the problem with taking notes, why not taking notes helped me become a better student, how I take 0 notes, note taking is killing your productivity, your brain hates notes, stop wasting your time, taking notes doesn't make any sense. Videos like this are taking over YouTube. I seem to see videos advising against note-taking every time I open my YouTube app. But as someone who's been taking notes to study since before my GCSEs right up until the end of medical school, I'm here to tell you why making notes is still important and why you shouldn't completely abandon this practice. Hi everyone, my name's Hiba and I've recently just finished medical school at the University of Manchester. Now my style of note-taking has definitely evolved over the years, but I've never seemed to resonate with the idea that you should completely throw away taking notes in order to study effectively. I'm going to explain to you exactly why I feel you should be making notes, at least to some degree. One of the biggest reasons I've heard against making your own notes is you can use pre-made notes. There are so many pre-made notes out there for every single subject, so much so that making your own notes is a waste of time. And I agree, I think there are some fantastic study websites out there. But in my years and years of experience studying, whether that be for medicine or for any other subject, I've always found the need to combine information from each resource into one place. Yes, there are very informative pre-made notes out there, but it's very, very unlikely that a single resource or a single website will contain the entirety of the information that you need to know. I've always found that one website or resource will contain some really good information that I want to remember, but then it will miss out a few details. And the topic that was missed out is covered really well in another book. But then there's a third resource that contains a really good summary that neither of the other two resources had. And I really want to remember this summary as well. Now, imagine if I didn't make my own notes. Imagine how time consuming and ineffective it would be that every time I study, I have to open these 3 different resources. On the website I use, try to find exactly where that summary was, mess about with the book trying to find the page that I was using. For me, it just makes so much sense to write the information that I want about that topic from each resource into my own book or into my own Word document, so that when I'm revising later, I only have to look at one resource, my notes, but I'm being able to combine the best bits of all of these different resources into one place. And I can be confident that I haven't missed anything out by relying on just one set of pre-made notes made by somebody else. I see making your own notes as a form of time investment because while it may take a while to create them, having everything in one place saves your future self so much time and brain power, particularly when it gets closer and closer to the exams, and your brain has more important things to deal with than trying to look through 10 different websites to try and find a piece of information that you once saw. Another thing that making your own notes allows you is the liberty of adding images and figures and tables wherever you need them to help with your understanding. This can just be in the form of copying and pasting from Google into your own Word document. It really doesn't have to be difficult. But if you prefer to handwrite your notes, you can draw images or you can draw tables. And I find that having images and diagrams really helps me to achieve a complete understanding of the topic that I'm learning about. So if you're relying on pre-made notes and there's a topic that's being explained in just a body of text, it's way more helpful to pair that with a diagram or an illustration to aid your memory. Sure, you can go onto Google Images and quickly look something up, but having that information in your own notes right beside a helpful diagram that you can easily refer to every time you revise is just way more convenient. Similarly, from my experience of studying sciences, but I'm sure would be the case for several other subjects as well, some textbooks and websites are just extremely complicated. There are several times that I come across terminology that I haven't come across before, and instead of having to look these things up every time if you rely on pre-made notes that you can't edit, it's much better for you to change the wording and terminology in a way that's easier for you to personally understand, and making your notes yourself allows you to do that. Now, I'm not advocating for writing paragraphs upon paragraphs. I think that there's a balance that you need to strike, and if you spend way too long on your notes, there will come a point where it becomes an ineffective use of your time. I also don't agree with simply copying and rewriting word for word from a single resource. I think that is an absolute waste of time because there's no difference between what you've just read and what you've written down. I also don't personally advocate for spending time highlighting and color coding because I don't personally think that's necessary. I would definitely say that the majority of your time studying should be spent on answering questions, doing past papers, and recalling the information that you've learnt rather than spending hours and hours on writing notes. However, I do think that to be able to have a solid foundation to allow yourself to answer questions and allow you to actively recall, you need to spend some amount of time making notes in some way, shape, or form. These may just be bullet points on a certain topic. They shouldn't be insanely long. In fact, they should be as concise as possible. However, when you are studying in other ways, for example, using flashcards, answering questions, whatever it is that you want to do to study, it is vital that you have one key point of reference to come back to, which is a solid foundation that combines the best information from different places into one, and that is your set of notes. I mentioned that making notes is like a time investment because it saves you time further down the line, but it's not only a time investment for the future, because even though making notes is a quite passive way of learning information, you will still be absorbing and learning some of the information whilst you are making the notes in the present moment. Just the act of reading a topic being explained in different ways, evaluating the different resources, picking out the best bits and combining them to make one set of notes really helps me to understand the topic and does allow me to absorb and remember some of the information whilst I'm making the notes. So what I'm trying to say is, it's not like after spending an hour on making notes, you will have learned absolutely nothing. If you do it in this way by looking at several different resources and combining the best parts into your own set of notes, you'll actually retain a fair amount. It definitely shouldn't be the only way that you study, but I think it's a really important element of your overall study routine. So unfortunately, I don't agree that making notes is a waste of time. I think making notes for exams does make a lot of sense, and I don't think taking notes necessarily has to kill your productivity.